Stand up.
Issues out of black and white. Let's concentrate on right and wrong.
And now, our voices today.
Why are we led by our pride?
Hello, welcome to the program. This is Our Voices Today on 95.9 FM WOVU. Our Voices United. Burton Bell Carr Community Radio. Thank you so much for tuning in and staying tuned. Maybe you need to get attuned. You know what that is? Look it up. So shout out to Mr. Jay Williams, Jay the Gospel Kid. Sorry, I didn't see your text. All right, but we enjoyed the run over. Okay, very enlightening. Exciting us to get to that definition of a song service. Nothing about us without us. April 1st and March 31st, the night before. So we are here. This is the Our Voices Today program. I am TC Lewis, and you are your wonderful self. I hope you've had a chance to drink some clean, fresh water today. Clean, fresh, and alive water. I hope you've had a chance to eat some tasty, nutritional, high vibrational foods. And I hope you've gotten good, high quality rest the night before so that we're thinking positive and productive thoughts as we move through these moments that are Legal Aid Thursday. Were you expecting that? Every third Thursday, the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland joins us for a segment we call Life and the Law, conversations about your rights. And we have some wonderful voices in the building from Legal Aid. We're going to be talking with Lauren Gilbride. Did I say that right, Lauren? Okay. Managing attorney and intake and volunteer managing attorney for the Intake and Volunteer Lawyers Program, and Izzy McLean. Her legal name is on this paper, but I'm not going to say it unless she gives me permission. Administrative assistant for the Intake and Volunteer Lawyers Program. But first, let's bring in a treasured entity. Lila P is here.
You guys.
Lila P is here.
Good morning.
From Signal Cleveland. Hi.
Hello. Good morning.
What
everyone.
a delight.
It's delightful to be here, especially with Legal Aid with so much going on. I can't wait for this conversation to begin. And I hope that you guys who are listening and call in with a lot. If you're experiencing anything, I know there's a lot going on with residents in the city of Cleveland. So these are the people who can help you if you're dealing with a number of, whether it's your landlord or just you're not rightfully being treated as a citizen here in the city of Cleveland. So thanks you guys for being here.
Wow. Thank you, Lila P. What's the phone number people should call?
The phone number is 216-271-0959. Please give us a call, guys. We want to hear from you.
One more time.
216-271-0959.
Thank you so much. And you can also leave a text or a very brief voicemail on the WOVU talkback line, 216-200-7848, 200-7848. A lot of numbers, but you got to write them down. I always tell y'all, you got to have a pen and a pencil. Your notes app open on your phone when you're listening to Our Voices Today. So we're just going to get right into it. Wait, first, Lila P., you've seen the movie Fences?
Fences with Denzel?
Denzel Washington, Viola
One
Davis.
time.
Okay, you don't remember it?
Let me know what you want me to remember.
I was just mad at Denzel for the infidelity, and he had a baby on Viola.
Oh, goodness. Not the acting scene. But in real life, he's a great husband.
Yeah.
A long marriage.
That's what made me mad.
Oh,
Because
honey.
actors are not their roles.
Yes, they are, because I can never get over Monique playing Precious and watching her play other roles trying to be kind. It never leaves my mind. But that's when you know the actor did their job,
Right.
because then you hate the character, right?
Yes. Yeah. Monique is always Nikki Parker to me.
Oh.
Hey, Mr. Ogilvy.
Well, now she's BMF's queen, so that really has my attention.
I have to watch that. Is that on Zeus? What is that on?
I think it's on HBO or maybe Prime, Amazon Prime. By the way, mentioning Amazon Prime and HBO, you guys could give us a call here at WOVU
Sure
for
could.
partnerships.
Okay, Lila, get into them bags. All right, so yeah, that was a long movie, 2 hours and 20 minutes, 2 hours and 19 minutes, and I stayed up and watched the whole thing. It did captivate me. I'm not a movie person. My attention span just doesn't allow me to enjoy movies in the movie theater. I almost, stopped it and went to something else because I was like, oh, this is long, but I watched it. Anyhow, I digress. Today is every third Thursday of the month. As I mentioned earlier, we have conversations about your rights with the legal aid, our friends from Legal Aid. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about why am I blanking on this? I'm looking right at the computer. Legal Aid's brief advice clinics. So if you remember, in January, our Life in the Law conversation focused on Legal Aid's intake process, how it works, and what people should expect when applying for Legal Aid's help. So today's conversation is going to build on that information with a deep dive into one of the ways they provide service through community-based brief advice clinics. So we'll focus on how Legal Aid's brief advice clinics work, what clients can expect when attending a clinic, dispelling some common myths. I love myth dispellation. And sharing details about upcoming clinic dates and locations. We're going to hear all of that. But first, let's officially say hello to our two guests. Lauren Gilbride, again, managing attorney for the Intake and Volunteer Lawyers Program. Welcome, Lauren.
Hi, thank you.
Yes. And Izzy McLean, administrative assistant for the same program. How are you?
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Great to have y'all here. Anything you want to get off your chest before we begin? Any actors you mad at? Did you watch any movies last night?
I did not watch any movies last night. I put my kids to bed and went to bed.
Okay. All right.
More of a TV show girl over here.
Me too. I would agree.
Are you a binge watcher?
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
What's your latest?
Been very into Daisy Jones and the Six. I read the book last year. Now it's out on Amazon Prime, as we were just talking about.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay. You read the book. I didn't know it was a book. All right. I've been looking at that. They have the little, I call them flyers on the apps. Anyway, let's get back to the topic. Okay, Legal Aid brief advice clinics. So, and also real quick, shout out to Rui. Rui, if you're listening, I have not forgotten about you, friend. So that was his voice we heard talking about the Legal Aid info line. So. Shout out to Rui. And thank you so much to Laura Klingler for helping to curating these wonderful conversations and bringing us the voices from Legal Aid Society of Cleveland. All right, so one of you like to take a stab at reminding our listeners about what Legal Aid does?
Yeah, I can take a stab at that. So Legal Aid's mission, and we have a new one, so I want to make sure I get this right. We worked on this. Mission. Yes, it's an update. We have a new strategic plan, and along with that came a new mission. So Legal Aid's mission is to secure justice, equity, and access to opportunity for and with people who have low incomes through passionate legal representation and advocacy for systemic change. This mission centers on our vision for Northeast Ohio to be a place in which all people experience dignity and justice, free from poverty and oppression.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I can get into the details of what that means we do. So Legal Aid is a law firm. We are one of the larger law firms in Northeast Ohio. We have over 100 staff members, the majority of which are attorneys, and we focus our work on civil law. So we are not handling criminal cases, but we do handle many civil cases. And what we see right now, we're doing a lot of work with eviction and other landlord-tenant issues, so conditions, being locked out by your landlord, having issues with utilities. We do work in the consumer area, so people with credit card debt, potentially interested in bankruptcy, car repossessions, contract disputes. We help in foreclosures, both mortgage and tax foreclosures. We do a lot of work in the public benefits arena, so issues with Medicaid, Social Security, the SNAP program, often referred to as food stamps, veterans benefits. We do work in the education area, so helping school-age children and their families when there are questions about discipline, questions about special education access. We do some immigration work, so helping those who are immigrants in this country and need legal assistance. And then finally, we have a family law practice. They focus their work on survivors of domestic violence, so helping those survivors with issues like protection orders, divorce, custody, support, those issues.
We could get help with all of that.
Wow.
So, we have a lot of areas that we help. We have a lot of attorneys who are experts in their areas. Our attorneys specialize. So, an attorney that's handling an eviction case is not necessarily the same attorney that would be handling a family law case. Unlike the criminal arena where people are entitled to an attorney, you often hear that when you think about Miranda rights, when you watch any TV shows. Unfortunately, in the civil arena, the vast majority of people are not entitled to attorneys when they're facing civil legal issues, and they're facing them alone. Legal Aid tries to do as much as we can, and we'll talk about the brief advice clinics as one way that we do that, to provide as much information, advice, support as we can to those that are facing civil legal issues. And we serve a lot of Northeast Ohio. So we serve Cuyahoga County, but we also serve Lake, Geauga, Ashtabula, and Lorain County to our west. So we have a larger area than just Cuyahoga County.
Yeah, absolutely. And in order to access legal aid services, they are free.
They are free, yes, completely free.
Yeah, you have to be income qualified, right?
Yeah, so and you guys talked about this in January, but just as a refresher, when someone is looking for assistance from legal aid, they go through an intake process. We have staff members who are dedicated to doing that work. They specialize in that area. We refer to them as intake specialists. So you'll speak to an intake specialist. We do gather information about your financial situation because we have to make a decision about eligibility. So there are some criteria for eligibility.
Yes. So if you or anyone you know is struggling with a legal issue that impacts any of the areas of life that Lauren mentioned, but also, basic needs, housing, safety, finances, visit Legal Aid's website at lasclev.org, lasclev.org, or call 888-817-3777, 888-317-3777. I just have a question off the cuff for you, Lauren. So why was there a change in the mission statement, and what's different about what's the difference?
As an organization, we just want to make sure that we are checking in on ourselves, making sure that we're being responsive to needs, that we're listening to the people that we intend to serve and to help. We don't want to be saying these are the issues that we should be addressing. We want people to say these are the issues we're dealing with, and so we go through that process by looking at our strategic plan. So we continually review our strategic plan to make sure that it's being responsive to the needs of people. And we just recently went through that. And this time when we went through our strategic planning process, one of the things that we took a look at was our mission. Again, as I said, it doesn't. It's not a complete change. We didn't totally throw out everything that we were doing, but it was looking at it, acknowledging it. One of the big changes for us was acknowledging that we work both with and for, and not just it's not just us doing something, it's us working with people. And so that, making sure that our mission reflects the values that we hold and that our client community holds.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for explaining that for us. So we're talking about Legal Aid's brief advice clinics today. As we've heard, Legal Aid hosts these brief advice clinics. Now, are they short, or is that brief in the legal sense? We'll get to it. These are held at community centers and libraries throughout Legal Aid's 5-county service area. Lauren mentioned Ashtabula County, of course, Cuyahoga County, Geauga, Lake, and Lorain counties. These brief advice clinics are free and you meet with Legal Aid staff and volunteers, in-person consultations. Attorneys are also present to meet with you. Bring anyone who is involved in whatever the issue is, so they could get, a well-rounded view of what you're facing there, and providing all sorts of help and resources. Even if something can't be taken care of by Legal Aid, I love the fact that you guys point us in the direction of an agency or person that is capable of handling the issues. So you mentioned the plethora of legal areas that Legal Aid helps folks with: education, social, government benefits, domestic violence, housing. What are the most common issues that show up at the brief advice clinics?
So I think a lot of what Lauren said, we always see housing, we always see family. I think public benefits, social security disability income, all of those things that we see almost every weekend that we're there. I think a bit of the running joke too is that we can't predict everything, and we welcome everything as well. So, even if I didn't just list the issue that you're talking about, we still welcome you to come and talk about it. And the odds that our volunteer attorneys will be able to figure out a solution and work through that issue with you are pretty high. So we see a little bit of everything. But yeah, I think that the substantive groups that Lauren talked about are really the ones that we're seeing most commonly.
Yeah. So the evictions. Also, I remember you guys handle divorces too.
Yes, we see a lot of family. When we try to have a family attorney available to talk with folks on the weekend, just because we know it's such a common concern for our client community.
Yeah. And as you mentioned earlier, even if it's an issue, so someone may call our intake department and they're looking for help with a divorce or a custody case, but they are not a survivor of domestic violence. So it's not that we can't help them at all. It's just that we need to provide some different services. And one of the ways that we do that is through the brief advice clinics. Okay. So people, as he said, a lot of people that come to brief advice clinics have family law questions. Divorce, custody, and child support are 3 areas that we often see at brief advice clinics. And we make sure that we always have a family law attorney there because we know that those issues are going to come in.
And these are real attorneys.
Yeah, real attorneys.
Yes. Yeah. Not interns or Not that interns are bad. But.
No. So our brief advice clinics are also an opportunity for private attorneys in our service area to get involved with legal aid. So in addition to legal aid attorneys that are there, we invite private attorneys to volunteer with us. And so they come to these brief advice clinics with us. They meet with legal aid first. They learn about the issues that we see and that we're asking them to address, and they're the ones that sit down with clients and provide advice. So oftentimes, if you're attending a brief advice clinic, you will be meeting with an attorney who does not work for legal aid, but who is volunteering with legal aid. So they're volunteering their time on those clinic mornings.
Okay. And then can you clarify brief advice? Does that mean 5 minutes and we're out?
No. So the name just is intended to indicate that the person is going to receive, advice at that moment, and that we're not at a location, for the next 6 days. Gotcha. We're just there. We're going into someone else's space, and so we want to be respectful of that and use that space appropriately. So we're not there for an extended period of time. But if you sit down with an attorney and you need to talk through a legal issue, they don't have a timer sitting there next to him saying, next, we've got the next one to see. They will sit down and work through it with you, give you as much advice as they can. You often are going to leave with documents, whether that's because you need help with something to file and they help you fill that out, or they're writing down resources for you, or they're giving you a brochure and working through what you need to do. There's no time limit beyond just we're not there for an extended amount of time.
Right. It's not like a 2-hour meeting.
But yeah, right.
Okay. Lila, go ahead.
So I want to know, in these cases, is there ever too much of a case that you guys are like, okay, wait, we've been working on this for probably 2 hours. I have to escalate this to a different department. At that point, though these are free services, would your client be responsible for the stipend that the fee they'll have to pay to have those services further looked at?
So we never charge any fees for any of our clients. The only time a person might have to pay is if they have to pay a fee to the court, which is just, something that the court charges and no money comes to us. I would say that every case that's coming in to a brief advice clinic is being evaluated by Isabel or myself or someone else. So, if you're sitting down with someone and you're working through something and it's taking a significant amount of time, we also sometimes recommend having things broken up. So if someone's in a long-term custody dispute, and this is a real life example, they may come to one clinic, someone walks them through, okay, here are your next 2 or 3 steps. You're going to go and you're going to file this document. You're going to make sure that you have this support when you file it. You're going to make sure that you follow whatever the court has ordered you to do, and then come back to a clinic in 2 to 3 months, so that you're not trying to say, okay, and then next year this is going to happen, and the year after that, because that can be overwhelming and it's hard to predict sometimes. And so we are open to having people come back to us at a brief advice clinic. There's also situations where someone walks into a brief advice clinic, and I gave an example earlier of a domestic violence survivor who is looking to file what's called a protection order, or is looking to file divorce. If someone comes into the brief advice clinic and has that situation going on, they may receive advice at that clinic to say, okay, in the immediate, this is what we recommend that you do. This is the advice that we're providing. Yeah. But as I said, we're constantly reviewing all of those cases. So when we bring that back to our office, because all of this information gets funneled through Legal Aid Society, it's not that the volunteer just walks away and doesn't tell us what happens. We know what happens between the client and the volunteer. We might say on Monday morning, okay, we're reaching out to our family law group to say this particular situation came into the clinic. Can you take a further look at that? So, we're always evaluating cases as they're coming in. The majority of people that come to brief advice clinics what they're going to receive is advice that day, and probably not more extended follow-up. But when we have situations like that, we have mechanisms in place to pull those cases and connect the client to where they need to be connected and where we have our resources available.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great to know.
Yes, it is.
Legal aid will hold your hand
Yes.
if necessary. Yeah, they won't just say, here's the info, now you go do what you will.
Which can be discouraging for people who don't know. Then that's when they quit, and then the issue prolongs, and then years pass, and they say, "Oh, I tried to do this, and I have documents showing I went maybe a year or two ago, but they never followed through." So oftentimes it's just dismissed, and the person is left hurt. Another thing I heard you mention, was about child support. I have a lot of guys dealing with child support issues. A lot of their issues with child support, it's not because the woman put them on child support or that's where they're supposed to be. It's like they sign the birth certificate and automatically, for some reason, they're put on child support. I mean, he could be a supporting father. How do you guys handle child support cases in the defense of men?
So that is we child support is a area that we handle mostly through the brief advice clinic. So someone coming in and saying, I'm paying support and I don't know why, or I'm paying support and it's too much now. They based it on either imputed income or income that I was making before. I'm not making this anymore. How do I change this? And so we have paperwork that we walk them through at the brief advice clinic. I am not a child support expert. As I said, we always bring a family law attorney with us. I am not a child support expert, but we have attorneys there. But the brief advice clinics are an excellent way to get advice, because sometimes it is, I don't want to say easy, but it's there are different routes. You may just need to talk to the child support agency. You may have to file something in court, typically juvenile court, and so the attorneys there can help navigate what the next steps are for you. And that would be a good example of where we say, okay, here's step one, go do this. If you have questions after, if it doesn't work, if something comes up, come back to the next clinic. Whenever we're at brief advice clinics, we have lots of flyers telling people when the next clinic is. So, we can always hand them one and say, in 2 weeks, we're going to be at this location. Please come and meet us there. Or if you can't do that, in 3 weeks, we're going to be in this one. We have them frequently enough that we can send people to different ones depending on their schedule.
Nice.
Yeah, and there's some ones coming up in April and May. We could go ahead and talk about those now. So I'll start off Saturday, April 15th at 10 a.m. You guys will be at the Cleveland Public Library Memorial Nottingham branch. I don't know what that is. I think that's Collinwood.
Over by Euclid Beach.
Yeah. Okay, Euclid Beach. Yeah, okay. And then April 29th at 9:30 a.m. at Fair Hill Partners. I know that's on Fair Hill Road, like near Martin Luther King.
And that one is specific to seniors that are looking for help with wills and other probate and estate documentation.
Okay, awesome. And then moving into May, Saturday, May 13th at 10 a.m., Legal Aid will be at the West Park branch of the Cleveland Public Library. And then a week later on May 20th at 9:30, they will be at the Fatima Family Center. So, lots of opportunities to interface with legal aid. Quick question before we go to the break. The brief advice clinics, do we still have to, are they open for the entire community, or do we still have to be income qualified? And also, if we have gone through the intake process with legal aid, can we still attend the brief advice clinic?
So I think a short answer is yes. So we do our intake process at the brief advice clinic. So the first step when you arrive at a brief advice clinic is you get signed in, and then you'll sit with a law student or one of our intake folks. They're volunteers. It's our opportunity to engage law students a little bit.
Okay.
And that student would take you through our intake process, and that asks the same kind of questions like if you called into our main intake line. So they'll ask you questions about your financial situation, and they'll ask you questions questions about your legal situation. And it just helps us with that information gathering piece. I would say at brief advice clinics, I can't say that, Lauren, correct me if I'm wrong here, I can't say there's a time we've turned somebody away at a brief advice clinic. We honor the fact that you've taken time out of your Saturday morning to come and join us at these clinics. So we try and at least offer some brief advice for anyone who walks in. And the thing is I have encountered clients who, maybe last week they completed our intake process with someone at our office and then they're at a brief advice clinic. We always have people repeat that process at the clinic just to make sure that we're getting the most updated information.
Okay.
Especially if you're dealing with a fast-moving legal case, situations can change in just a matter of days. And we want to make sure that we're getting that information so that our volunteer comes in prepared with the most up-to-date facts.
Okay. Awesome. Izzy, a question for you. Are you a law student?
I am not.
Oh, no.
I am not.
All right. I was expecting a yes, but that's okay. We love you anyhow. Any way you come. We're going to take a break. Let's take a breath. If you have any questions for our guests, Lauren Gilbride, managing attorney, and Isabel, Izzy McLean, administrative assistant. They are both a part of the intake and volunteer lawyers program with Legal Aid Society of Cleveland, talking to us about their brief advice clinics where you can get some advice, not necessarily answers. Lawyers, they kill me. All right, Saturday, April 15th at 10 a.m. I'm just saying, because whenever we ask, there's you guys specific questions, you're like, it depends. I don't know. But come into Legal Aid and we'll help you figure it out. Saturday, April 15th at 10 a.m. at the Cleveland Public Library Memorial Nottingham branch, and Saturday, April 29th at Fair Hill Partners. You can get that information at lasclev.org or call 888-817-3777. This is Our Voices Today, talking with Legal Aid, conversations about your rights. We'll be right back. This is 95.9 FM, WOVU, Cleveland.
Do you have basic questions related to employment, unemployment, or student loans? Call Legal Aid's Economic Justice Information Line at 216-861-5899. Leave a short message with your question and a Legal Aid representative will return your call. That's 216-861-5899.
This message is brought to you by the Legal Aid Society and WOVU 95.9 FM. Our Voices United, a Burton Belcar community radio station.
The best thing Tri-C did for me was give me opportunities. The workforce program prepared me for the career I have now. I got a job in the aerospace industry where I work on CNC machines. I have 3 younger brothers. I want to teach my brothers, hard work actually pays off. Come to Tri-C. It's a great stepping stone to wherever you're trying to get to in life. My name is Chris Grooms, and I got my start at Tri-C.
Start now at tri-c.edu.
This message was brought to you by WOVU 95.9 FM at Burton Bear Car Community Radio Station.
Stop paying hundreds of dollars for taxes. Cuyahoga County residents that earn up to $60,000 annually qualify for tax preparation services at no cost. Avoid the fees and keep your full refund by filing your tax return with the Cuyahoga EITC Coalition. Services provided by IRS certified volunteers. Make an appointment today at refundohio.org or dial 211. This message is brought to you by the Cuyahoga Earned Income Tax Credit Coalition and WOVU 95.9 FM, Burton Belcar Community Radio.
It's time to make the short story longer. Yeah.
All right. We have returned. This is the Our Voices Today program on 95.9 FM, WOVU, Our Voices United. Today is the third Thursday of the month. That means our friends from Legal Aid Society of Cleveland are here with us to tell you, well, not tell you, but have a conversation about your rights. A lot of people just don't know that, don't know their rights, Lila P.
I know. I think we need to re-educate the people in a sense. And I've been saying that for maybe 3 years now. The fact that you have these clinics, I think it's great if we invite them as a gathering instead of advice, and have them come and say, or not even come and say, just come to learn what their rights are with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we actually do that work as well. It's outside of the brief advice clinics, but we have different presentations that we do to the community. We often refer to them as Know Your Rights presentations. So recently we did one in Garfield Heights focused on your rights as a tenant. And so we will do those different presentations. We also have a lot of information on our website. So, you know, I totally agree that the more you can know about what your rights are, the more prepared you may feel as you may encounter different legal issues, different questions. And so our website, we're constantly adding information and materials and trying to make it as user-friendly as possible. So I would recommend that if you're not currently, you know, facing a legal issue, but you've got some questions, you're wondering about some things, you know, maybe it's you're wondering about employment. That is an area I forgot to mention. That is something we practice in as well. So
wage theft.
Yes, wage theft, employment discrimination,
give me all my
unemployment compensation. So I encourage people to visit our website, and then there's one other piece that we have is our tenant information line, and so this was started before it came to legal aid. It was actually started as an organization called Cleveland Tenants Organization. We have a wonderful staff member who all she does is answer the tenant information line, and what that line does is provides an opportunity for people to call and say, you know, hey, I got this notice from my landlord. Is this allowed? Is this permitted? Or, you know, I'm not really sure what to do. I want to move, but what do I have to do to make sure that I'm doing everything right? And, you know, the landlord's not going to come back and say I owe money. And so that's the sole responsibility of the tenant information line. The tenant information line and our intake department are connected so that if someone called the tenant information line and said, I'm facing eviction right now, we could move that right on over to intake and get that person processed through. But tenant information line is a really great resource for people that want information. I think, as we've talked about a couple times, people are really struggling right now. Renters are struggling. There are a lot of evictions being filed.
30% increase in my rent since COVID.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there are rent raises. People are living through horrible conditions issues, so landlords not repairing properties. You know, all sorts of things going on. And so our tenant information line is another resource and tool where if you're not, you know, you're not currently facing a legal issue, but you're like, hey, I've got this question. What kind of information is out there? So
yeah, even just to say, I love that you said, or, you know, informed us that we can, if we just have a question, like an inkling, maybe we're not facing eviction, or maybe, you know, our kid isn't suspended from school, but, you know, just a question about what the possibilities are, you know, if something happens, what can we do? I just love that we're able to reach out, you know, and if y'all can help, you will. And if you can't, you send us to where we can get the help. So just a reminder, you know, if you need legal help with housing, employment, benefits, domestic safety, or another fundamental need, please visit Legal Aid's website at lasclev.org anytime to apply for assistance. You can also call the intake line on particular days and hours, 888-817-3777, 888-817-3777. You can also get information about the upcoming legal aid brief advice clinics on the website lasclev.org. You're going to click events and then clinics, and it will give you a list, and they will tell you that May 13th, Legal Aid will be at the West Park branch of Cleveland Public Library, and May 20th at the Fatima Family Center. So how do we get the best out of our brief advice clinic experience? Like, what should we be prepared to say, do, bring, etc.?
Well, I'd recommend that if you're coming to a brief advice clinic with a question, bring the paperwork. Mm-hmm. So if you've received, something in the mail from an attorney or from a court, make sure you have that with you. Mm-hmm. Though that documentation is really helpful. And I make sure that you have the people with you that are most impacted by this issue. And the reason I say that is a good example of this is a couple weeks ago, we were at a brief advice clinic and a concerned father came in about his adult daughter who was facing eviction. And, he wanted to talk through it and work through it with me. And it was just challenging because we didn't have the person that was experiencing the legal issue. And so, while I was able to give him as much as I could, having the daughter that was actually facing the eviction and the paperwork there certainly lends itself to getting the best advice possible. So paperwork, and as much as you can come in prepared to, you might have to wait a little bit. We tend to have a big push in the beginning of our brief advice clinics where a lot of people come right in the beginning. We get people, we're pretty good at getting people through efficiently without saying, okay, 10 minutes is up, you're done. Just when you come in, remind yourself, I'm going to be seen. They're not going to turn me away. I will get seen. If you have to leave because you have an appointment, you can always find a legal aid staff member. We make ourselves as known as we can be to everyone there to say, I've got to leave. We often arrange for you to have a call back, or we'll give you the information for the next brief advice clinic. But just come in there knowing that you're gonna get seen, and I think that often helps calm people down so that they're not feeling like I've got to get everything out right now, and oh my gosh, someone's not meeting with me and I'm going to get kicked out of here. That won't happen. But paperwork is huge. If you have paperwork, bring the paperwork.
Right. Bring your documentation. So do we need to schedule an appointment?
Nope. So these are first come, first serve. So just stop in. That's why it tends to fill up early in the morning. We advertise the time as 10 to 11 a.m. All that means is that you can walk in for intake during that time period. If you're there by 11, you will be seen. We will stay. We have stayed at brief advice clinics until 3 o'clock in the afternoon because it's been a particularly busy one. We're not going to turn you away, as long as you're there by 11. We do put that time limit on because, as I said earlier, we are using someone else's space, and thank you to the Cleveland Public Library who lets us use their space. Every month we're at a different library branch, and the libraries are always so open and welcoming to us. They often have other events, activities, things going on. So we try to be respectful of that, and also of our volunteers' time. So, the people that are providing advice are volunteers, and we give them a certain amount of time, but they always, they stay as long as they need to provide that advice. So you'll get seen. We'll talk with you. We'll work through the issues with you.
It's just so comforting. I feel
it is
like very relaxed right now hearing all of this information. One last pointed question. Like if I come in, I'm getting evicted and my kid is going through stuff at school and I need a divorce, can I bring all those things to the brief advice clinic, or do I need to visit multiple times for it? Or one issue, is there one issue per visit, or can I pile them on you?
Great question, because a lot of people deal with a lot at once, piled on them.
Right, and some of those things are connected. But no, we would encourage you to bring that up as soon as possible in the process so we know. And then I would say talk to the intake person. Make sure that you're giving them all the information. So that way, if you need to talk to our family attorney about the divorce, and then you need to talk to somebody who has a lot of experience dealing with evictions, that way we can kind of coordinate behind the scenes to make sure that we're making sure that those people are available to you. And I think Lauren said, if we need to break things up over clinics, we can do that. Or if we need to, assess to see if there's more that we can do that. So bring it all, and we will find a way to serve you as best as possible.
Awesome. And my mind is going at 1,000 miles per hour always. Did you guys mention that they should call in for a consultation to see what they need to bring, or they just walk in and come back with whatever it is they need to bring?
Yeah, just walk in. You don't have to call legal aid. Now, there are people, I'm sure people who are listening that think, well, I've called legal aid before and they've told me to go to a brief advice clinic. So that happens when someone calls our intake department. Our intake is open Monday through Friday. If they identify a legal issue where we're not going to be able to represent them, but we think they could benefit from sitting down with a volunteer attorney and getting some advice at a clinic, the intake specialist may say to them, you can go to this upcoming clinic on Saturday. So again, we're always sharing information out about where our brief advice clinics are and when they'll happen, but there is no requirement that you call legal aid first. So you wake up on Friday and you realize you have this legal issue, you go to our website, you find where the clinic's going to be that Saturday morning, you head to that brief advice clinic. And I should mention, most of our brief advice clinics do happen on Saturday mornings, but occasionally we will have them on other days and times. One big reason that we host them on Saturdays is because we recognize and acknowledge that our office hours are Monday through Friday, and a lot of our clients are working, and so for them to reach our intake department can be a challenge. We've tried to build some things to make that easier. We have an online intake process now where people can schedule an appointment time, so they schedule it during their lunch break so that it's not taking up a bunch of time waiting on the phone. But another way that we try to accommodate is by offering these on Saturday mornings, so that if someone's working Monday through Friday, they have this opportunity as well. But we often do these on weekday evenings as well. That picks up more during the summer months. When it gets dark at 4:00, it's hard to get people to come to an event until 6:30 in the evening. But as it gets lighter out, you'll see on our calendar some more weekday evening brief advice clinics. Again, trying to recognize, that people have different schedules, people work different times, and maybe you got your kids out of school now, so you can come to the brief advice clinic. So those will happen as well.
Awesome. Brief advice clinics on Saturday mornings when a lot of us have more flexibility to get there. But the legal aid intake hours I want to mention are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Fridays from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So you give them a call from between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. You don't want to be on the line that whole time. Or you can call on Thursdays from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And that number is 888-817-3777. If you are a Spanish speaker, you speak the Espanol, that's not cute, right? The Espanol. This is my joke on the show, because I studied Spanish for 85 years.
Wow.
So anyway, for speakers of Spanish, let me just get it right. 216-587-3190. I mixed it. That was like Italian. And
who are you, really?
Yeah, I am many voices inside of here. So if you speak Spanish, call 216-586-3190. I'm sure legal aid caters to other languages.
Yeah, that actually was a great reminder, and that I want to let people know that we have, at all of our Saturday library clinics, we have a Spanish-speaking interpreter available in person. And then we also engage in interpreter service over the phone, where we can accommodate most other languages, including folks who use ASL. We can engage the Cleveland Relay Center. So we really are don't let that be the limiting factor. We can always accommodate language, be it in person or via a phone service.
Okay. So if you're sight impaired, hearing impaired,
all of the above,
you can get assistance. Okay. So one thing that came up in Fences that is related, I love being tangential, but this is related. Denzel Washington's character, he couldn't read. So if we have trouble with reading, or we can't read, can we, how does that affect our dealings with legal aid, if at all?
Yeah, so when you're working with legal aid, whether it's our intake department or at a brief advice clinic, or you're being represented by an attorney, we will talk through ways that you can receive information and advice. And so one thing that we always try to do is we both provide advice, like, orally. So we're saying to you what we're recommending. We're also writing it down. And so someone that has trouble reading would first hear that advice, and then we could talk through, okay, do you need us to call and remind you of this or share this with you again, because having that written piece of paper may not be as much help as it would be to someone that can read that. Right. So we try to be aware and cognizant and providing services in the way that is the easiest way for someone to receive that type of service.
Yeah. I see. Good. That's good to know. A lot of people, it kind of bothers me that reading is like a deficiency in our community. I'm a mentor for CMSD schools, and a lot of my students can't read. So adults who are dealing with legal issues, not knowing how to read, automatically drops their self-esteem. They don't want to ask for help. They don't want people to know, hey, I can't read. So it's good you guys have that available. And I'm happy you brought that question up.
Thank you.
Yes.
I love all the nods from Lila P. That's high praise from a high place. You are a journalist. Signal Cleveland. Okay. So as we wrap up here, we have about 3 or 4 minutes left. Let's learn about Lauren Gilbride. What do you
want to know?
What do you, besides helping people with their civil legal issues, what do you like to do on a Saturday afternoon?
Well, after I finish my brief advice clinic, I have 3 little children, so I am carting them back and forth between ice skating lessons and birthday parties and basketball and all those fun things.
Super mom.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So that's where I spend most of my Saturdays and Sundays these days is with them.
Guys, I must say, 3 kids, she looks great. How about that?
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. What about you, Izzy?
Well, let's see. After I finish a brief advice clinic, I take a nap. No.
That's right. That's real. That's real.
No, I live with my partner and our 2 cats over on the near west side of Cleveland.
Okay.
And let's see, I'm an avid reader, so that reading thing strikes home to me. I read a lot. I'm trying my darndest to become a runner, so I'm trying to give that a whirl. My apologies to all of the runners I have scorned in my life prior to now. And it's a lot of spending time with family, spending time with my cats, my books.
Yeah.
Good.
Izzy also goes to good restaurants, and so I often get to live vicariously through her by asking her what food she ate over the weekend, because mine is mac and cheese. So she has better food than me.
Yes, I cook a lot too. I go to a lot of restaurants. I cook a lot.
Top 3 restaurants in Cleveland that you would suggest to a tourist?
I have to say Cordelia. I love their food and I love their mission. They are good people over there. I having experience in a restaurant industry, the fact that they really prioritize paying their workers and having benefits and anti-discrimination and having a good workplace. Let's see, where else? I've really been loving Gingy. I lived in the Pacific Northwest and had good ramen just available to me all the time. So I've been loving Gingy's ramen. And El Carnicero is my favorite modern Mexican. Emphasis on modern. It is not it's not like your authentic taco place, but their tamale frito is my favorite bite.
She said that with a little bit of
right. Tamale frito. Lila P, what about you?
I am a nerd, you guys. My house looks like a library. I'm a reader.
That's
I do a lot of research. Most of my weekends consist of community work with Cleveland-led Advocates for Safe Housing. I do a tabling event every month, I'll say. But a lot of it is just getting out into the community. I don't really have a routine. Self-care, of course. That some days, this is a note you guys can take. Some days I'm just completely silent. I don't talk at all. I purge my voice. I don't answer the phone. I don't speak words in the house. I'll just read or let soft music play. The next day I'm charged up.
I like that.
So take that away as a gem if you like.
Thank you.
Yes, of course.
Drop those gems, Lila P. Well, thank you so much. And me, I would say just doing nothing. I like the silent thing. I like just, laying in the bed, drinking a fruity drink, not necessarily alcohol, but like just something fresh and refreshing. And probably, chatting with my child. He's very funny.
Oh.
And we have a lot of fun being goofy together. So, Legal Aid has been here with us. Make sure if you need to visit one of their brief advice clinics. The nearest and dearest one, not dearest, but the nearest one coming is April 15th. When are taxes due? Is that tax day?
That's the Saturday. I think taxes get pushed to the 17th, that Monday.
All right. So April 15th at 10 a.m. at the Memorial Nottingham branch of the Cleveland Public Library in the Lakeshore area. And you can find out about all of the clinics. Come at the Legal Aid website, lasclev.org. You're going to click on events and then click on clinics. Also call 888-817-3777 if you need legal advice with a civil issue. They don't do criminal, but they surely will point you in the right direction. Thank you so much to all of y'all for being here. Thank you to our listeners. Have a wonderful day.
It's the 2023 campaign, Nothing About Us Without Us. The definition of a song service. Friday and Saturday, March 31st and April 1st. Live at the First Baptist of Greater Cleveland in Shaker Heights, Ohio. Friday night, featuring the Bolton Brothers. Get ready for a life-changing experience with the Bolton Brothers. With special guest, Blessed by Four, Marcus Newson, and the Newson Singers, plus Maurice Yancey and One Accord. Then on Saturday night, get ready for Daryl Pettis and Take Two. Plus, the Anointed Brown Sisters. Also on Saturday night, see Roy and Revelation. Plus, Bree Holly and Faithful. 2 days of an explosive spiritual experience.
For more information, visit
TNL Bookstore in Cleveland. Eventbrite.com/gospelkid. Call Pastor Banks at 216-544-0424. That's 216-544-0424. Or visit gospelkid.com. This service is being brought to you by Magnet Cleveland, Make Them Know Your Name, Sisters of Charity, Gaines Funeral Services, Jewels in His Crown, Gospel Music Historical Society, True by Hilton, Metro Health System, and Gospel Kid Communications.
along with WOVU 95.9 FM, Our Voices United, Burton Bell Carr Community Radio. All proceeds benefit Pace Foundation Clee and Jewels in His Crown.